job in the city. I got a house with a guest room, I don't know who's there. Got a person that loves me. She hates the way that I talk, I smoke, I stare. I'm a king in a castle. I'm the ghost in the cornholes cut out in the sheets. I'm about to be 30. I'm dead and I'm gone, that's alright with me. Just give me something to live for. Give me something to do when I turn out the light. So hard being honest, but I'll try. Everything's fine right now. Everything's fine. I'm storming the castle. I'm turning my head 180 degrees. My whole body is hurting. I'm burning my last will and testimony. Calling friends from high school. Telling people I love them, they don't know my name. Writing songs for my parents. They've always been there for me, hope that I do the same. Just give me something to live for. Give me something to do when I turn out the light. So hard being honest, but I'll try.
So today I want to talk about something that's very much on my mind, and that is the subject of whether a home studio is better than a rented one. As we are all too much aware, there has been so many changes and adaptations needed of late due to the lockdown, and also strange and inconsistent rules around that. Therefore, many of us have been forced to work from home, and now that things are opened up again, it's feeling like, for me anyway, a big change to step out there again. Plus I need to make a decision on whether the rented studio is even relevant to me anymore. To be honest, I'm feeling fairly exhausted of all the improvise and compromise, and like many of us, I dislike making decisions at the best of times. But right now I feel I need to buy myself some more thinking time and be kind to myself and see how my new working schedule needs are met by the rented space. I went in last week and it felt exciting to be back, as well as really strange too, and I didn't go in with the intention to work at all. I just wanted to feel my way back in and reset the space, if you like. I love my space. It's in a community building and it's a communal room shared with a few other creatives. I have a front view out the building, which brings me in a buzz of energy. And especially from the cafe bar downstairs as well, although not quite so much as it used to be in life before lockdown. Anyway, let's get to the pros and cons of renting a space versus working from home. And this could mean any kind of office space and not necessarily just an artist space. So after having a rented studio for over 2.5 years and working from home for the past 6 months, here are my main thoughts on the pros and cons of each option. So I'm going to start with my thoughts about working from home. Number 1, you can work from home any time of day or night, and you can choose the space in your home that you work from. So for example, for me, I'm a real morning person, so to be able to come into the studio and start working even when I'm not properly awake or ready to go and face the world is really useful for me. And another thing I really like as well is to actually move around my home while I'm working. So there's different jobs I like to do in different spaces in my home, if you like, to get comfy and also to be the most productive. Another thing about working from home, there's no journey time to the office. There's no fuel needed and no cost involved with actually getting to work. For me, I don't live very far away from my studio anyway, so it's not that important to me. It takes me about 5 minutes in the car. But I just thought I'd mention that one anyway, because if people have a longer commute, then that can be an important factor. The main difference financially is obviously that you have to pay extra to rent a space, whereby you're living at home anyway, so there's no extra cost on top of that. And if work and income has been reduced like it has for me during lockdown, then that is a big important point to consider as well. The other thing I think that's really, really different is the fact that when you're working from home, you are more insular, you have more solitude, which is a good thing in the sense that you get to focus and concentrate without interruptions, which can equal higher productivity. But at the same time, you're not getting that inspiring social interaction part of life as it is in the rented space. Working from home can create extra mess around you in your space, if you like, and it can feel overwhelming. I like to keep my space as tidy as possible to maintain my clarity and keep calm and not have that overwhelming feeling. So often the first thing I do when I come in the studio in the morning is just tidy up my desk and clear my space, or if I've been really good, I do it the night before. The other aspect of this, of course, especially if you don't have your own room to work in, but you're perhaps working in a corner of your living room or something like that, it can be harder to switch off. I tend to leave all my work things in my studio. My mess gets left in there and I can just leave that and switch off. But it's certainly harder to switch off than if I've been working out in the rented studio and then I drive home from there and arrive home and I'm in switch off zone, if you like. Another thing that's come up for me is, are my home tasks distracting me from my work tasks? So being surrounded by your home, you've got things that you maybe like to do in your home environment, like washing up or doing some laundry and things like that. So is that counterbalancing your work routine? For me, that hasn't really been a problem because I have little routines that I do anyway, just to keep my kitchen and bathroom, etc. clear. I always get up in the morning and make my bed and things like that. So I'm kind of in a nice routine, but from time to time it has been a little bit distracting to be on task with my work and I've got other things maybe talking to me from around my home. Something that hasn't come up for me yet, but perhaps might in the future, is the aspect of motivation and whether I can keep myself motivated to be on task and get all my work done. But as I say, that hasn't been a problem for me at the moment. I'm really motivated and really enjoying what I'm doing, so currently that is not a problem. I think the final thought about working from home as well is that there's no restrictions in regards to if there are any more lockdown rules and things like that. So my building where my studio is closed during the lockdowns, and obviously that meant I couldn't go in to work. So therefore, if that did happen again, that would obviously impact me quite heavily again. So the working from home aspect brings me the freedom from that. And that feels very safe and consistent and level, if you know what I mean. Moving on to thoughts of my rented space then. In comparison to the home studio, there are opening and closing times at the building. So therefore that means limitations. Now I'm really lucky in my building that it is a cafe bar as well. So I have access to the building for long hours each day and including weekends as well. The other thing is obviously the small journey time I have plus fuel costs on that and the rental cost of that studio space as well. I am very lucky in the rent because the building charges a very good rate and so my costs are kept quite low with regards to my rent. In my rented space there's definitely more distractions and I'm definitely less productive. There are interruptions and inevitable things that happen throughout the day for other people in the room and it can be distracting for me, especially when I'm trying to focus on my painting and drawings and obviously my editing process now, which I have to concentrate really hard and get my head down and get into. So any distractions in that can take me off task, which isn't necessarily a good thing. Inevitably in a communal space as well, there are always office politics and things going on around the building, so it's less peaceful and it definitely disrupts my workflow. Having a good set of headphones and just keeping quiet in my corner really helps me just focus on my work and my tasks that I need to get done that day though. So there are ways around it. And people are generally pretty respectful in the room so that you don't get too many distractions as well. I think being in a communal space as well can be distracting when you've got decisions to make, and obviously we make a lot of decisions each and every day, and whether they be large or small, they still use a lot of energy, a lot of brain energy. So having distractions in that communal space can be quite tiring, at least for me anyway. On the plus side, the social aspect is really good, and working with fellow creatives can be really inspiring and spark ideas and positivity. You know, it can keep you going when you're feeling down, when you're having your lower moments. So yeah, there are definite positives of having the social aspect. The other thing that's really different from my home studio is the amount of space I have at my rented space. I have much more space there to spread out, make a mess, and really enjoy the light that's in that room as well, because it's got beautiful light. You know, I can leave a mess out at the end of the day and it doesn't matter. I can close the door, come home and relax and not feel work overwhelmed when I'm in my home environment, and then go back in the next day and everything's out ready for me to just continue with my task. There's no tidying up time, if you like, so that's a big time saver. I also find the space really, really inspiring. It's got really high ceilings and wooden beams. It's an old converted factory building, and I have a big skylight over my space as well, which brings me in some really nice light. So just being in there is enough to inspire me to create, paint and draw, etc. And I get a lot of ideas for my creative sides of my business as well in that room. I love to sit in there with my morning drink and just take in the space and the light. Being part of a community project as well, which is that building, is a really positive thing, with fellow creatives and small businesses all around. It's always a hub of activity, which is very uplifting to be around and inspiring, and all the other elements that you gain from feeling part of a community. So being part of a broader family and people with similar goals and similar challenges, if you like. So I've just had a thought on the distractions point of view, in the sense that for me, I find my home studio less distracting. But if you have a family and young children or pets at home, then it could be the absolute opposite for you, where you might be much more productive with far less interruptions at an office environment. So finally, I'm just thinking about the impact and implications of returning after such a long break, because it's definitely feeling very strange to be changing up my schedule quite as much as it is, with going back to the studio and thinking about how that's going to work with my new work schedule. So I've been in the studio all afternoon, and yeah, it feels really good to have pottered, really. That's all I've done. I haven't really done anything exciting, but I've just kind of gone through where everything is and organised things a little bit better. You know, everything was kind of up on the tables after the flood. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. And it feels quite good to be here. I'm just organising my new schedule, which has completely changed since before lockdown. So March, April, May, June, July, August, September. So 6 months, which is incredible. And yeah, the space feels really, really fresh and clear, and I'm really looking forward to working in here next week. So yeah, watch this space and I will bring you to the studio again. It's a really nice studio. Actually, my favourite thing about the studio is this. So I love the fact I've got that really big window right over where I put my desk. But what I really love is that skylight right above, because that brings me so much extra light for when I'm painting. Yeah, that's my favourite thing about this studio. And I really like the ceiling goes up really high. I don't know if you can see, there's a really high ceiling as well. And I absolutely love those beams. So I'm just editing this video now, and I thought Editing Wendy could pop in here with a little update of my thoughts now after going in the studio every day this week. So things are feeling a little bit more open. And also I put out a little questionnaire on my Instagram stories and on my Facebook page as well. And out of I think I had 27 replies. So out of those, 100%, so basically the question was, just to rewind a little bit, the question was, do you prefer working from home or do you prefer working from an out there rented space, office space, studio space? 100% of the replies said, I prefer working from home. So that was really interesting. And I'm wondering as well whether that's something to do with people being forced to work from home due to lockdown, or whether perhaps people were happy working at home anyway, and it has nothing to do with lockdown. Anyway, very interesting. So I'm still not sure how I feel with regards to which I prefer. I'm kind of in the middle. I really enjoy both. So maybe I just continue with both situations. Certainly for now, that feels like the best option. So yeah, very interesting. Thanks for all the replies. So for this video, I don't really feel like I've created a pros and cons list, if you like, because some of the points are positive and negative. I mean, the major point of the social aspect is a really key point, particularly in life after lockdown, where I feel it's even more important that we get our social interactions. And in fact, coming out and chatting to other people has made me realise how simple little conversations and interactions with each other is so massively important. You know, that we connect with our fellow human beings and how that makes us feel connected and not on our own. And even just observing other people in the cafe bar downstairs where my studio is, I find really uplifting and joyful to see people having a good time with each other. You know, that makes me feel so happy, and I'm just noticing that I'm appreciating all these little things so much more. And I believe it's really healthy and important for our well-being to get out there and socialise. So I see this as a really important factor in the decision I will eventually need to make regarding keeping the studio or not. Since working in the studio this week as well, I have noticed that the space factor has been a big deal to me, and that because I've got so much more space in my out there studio, I can spread out and do more projects at the same time, where at the home studio I have to tidy up in between projects, and that's obviously a time element, as well as it feels like a little bit of an obstacle to get over before I actually start a project. So the space element is perhaps more important than I considered before. So I think there are definite pros and cons in the list I've given. So the main con for me keeping the out there studio, the rented space, is the cost of the rent. So I will be considering that. So moving forwards then into the next few weeks, I think the questions I will be asking myself will be, how am I actually using the studio? You know, which projects am I doing at home and which projects am I doing at the studio? How often am I going into the studio? How often am I actually using the space? And that's a major point with regarding the financial circumstances. Also, how do I feel when I'm actually there? How much inspiration and enthusiasm do I actually feel working in there? Which for me gives me even more energy to put into the projects that I want to create. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and have any of the points I've brought up felt relevant to you? Are you working from home, and how does that feel? You know, would you prefer working from a rented space rather than your home environment? Or are you currently working out there and would love to be based working from home? Let me know any comments or questions down below. So thanks so much for watching. Loads of love and virtual hugs. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. And if you want to see content from me in the meantime, in between videos, you can check out my Instagram page, specifically my Instagram stories. So have a great weekend, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now. Bye.
Job in the city, I got a house with a guest room, I don't know who's there. Got a person that loves me, she hates